To my female friends, are you tired? Are you feeling tired? Or maybe you've just about had it. Living your best life spiritually is hard when your well being is off. Have you checked your hormones lately? This is Angelscapes, and I'm your host, Nancy Smith. Joining me is Amanda Hinman, functional medicine consultant coach. Amanda helps women optimize their health by balancing their hormones naturally, and she's going to talk with us about what's new in 2025 for women who are trying to optimize their hormone health.
Welcome to the Angelscapes podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
So, Amanda, let's just start talking about what you're about. You have a new book that just came out, and I know you help a lot of women.
Yeah, thank you. I'll share. It's called the Thyroid and Hormone Solution, a 5-step plan to balance your hormones naturally. And yeah, I definitely feel so passionate about helping women because over 20 million women are suffering with some type of thyroid and hormone imbalance, whether that's something that's been officially diagnosed or just suboptimal function, which means it leaves you feeling depleted. It leaves you feeling scattered mentally, like you can't focus or have headaches, bloating, weight gain, even dry, ratchy skin, lots of different things. I want to help more women to feel better in their bodies and really have that sense of vitality and vibrant living. So, super excited to have this conversation today.
I am too. I am. That's just a big top hit for women's hormonal systems are constantly in flux. Speaking
Yes.
as somebody who went through all the changes, and even after the changes, they're in flux. How did you get interested in the hormone work?
In this path, yeah, I honestly feel, Nancy, that this direction was a divine redirection, if you will. It kind of chose me. I had always been interested in fitness and health earlier, but I was in business, out of college and working in corporate America. And then I have 4 daughters. And while I was pregnant with my 4th daughter, this was, almost 14 years ago, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is, again, fairly common, more common among women than it is among men. And even fluctuating levels of estrogen can influence our propensity to have thyroid imbalance, like I did during that pregnancy. But I remember being really shocked. And candidly, I was in a little bit of a denial when the doctor gave me this diagnosis and said, your body is attacking itself. You're likely to require medication for the rest of your life to manage this. And also be mindful, be aware, because once you have one autoimmune condition, you're at a much higher risk for multiple autoimmune diagnoses in the
Really
future.
scared the pants off of you.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't a fun conversation. Well, and at the time, Nancy, I self-identified as somebody who was healthy, or so I thought, because I was checking the boxes that I had learned that equated to health. I was eating salads and smoothies every day. I was going to the gym and teaching cardio kickbox classes. So I was moving my body and exercising hard. And I thought it was just a matter of eat vegetables and exercise, and your body should be healthy. But obviously, we now know there's a lot more to the puzzle. And when I had this diagnosis first, that reaction was a little bit of a surprise. And so I started working with a naturopathic doctor and started to take all of these functional lab tests, spent thousands of dollars to find out more information about what's going on with my body and what caused this. And he gave me a list of about 16 supplements to start to take and, you know, all these foods to eliminate and to remove from my diet. So that posed its own set of challenges. And fast forward a few months after that, I was trying diligently to like do my best to make these behavior changes, but starting to feel even more like this is not sustainable and this is really, really hard. And I was depleted even more. Actually, my symptoms increased and got worse instead of better. Then my oldest daughter at that time had always been a highly sensitive child. She was 8 years old and struggled with some anxiety, but that started to ramp up and to escalate and really substantially to the point where she was having seizures every day, 10 to 15.
Wow.
Yeah. The reaction, it was honestly, it was probably the most difficult time period as a mom in my entire life because it's so scary to think that your child is at risk of death, you know, multiple times in a over span of many months. And we did all the testing, and amazing pediatric neurologists were trying to discern what was the cause of these seizures. And we were told that, again, sometimes this is genetic. There was no tumor, there was no discernible cause. And so she was on 4 different benzodiazepine medications, like 12 pills a day, just to make it through 24 hours without having another seizure. And my lively, vibrant little girl became like this listless, dull human. And I was like, this is not the girl that I know.
No.
And so as a mom, every fiber in my being thought, this cannot be her future. We were told she may likely never drive a car because of the medication and all these things. And I was like, there has to be something more missing. That's when I went back to school and studied functional medicine science, which is really taking an individual approach to look at the interconnected systems in our body, our digestive system, our immune system, our cardiovascular system, our endocrine system, hormones, all the things. How do they work together? And where can we identify a blockage, an impairment, or a depletion in the body that's creating these downstream symptoms? Because something upstream is skewed, right? And it's then showing and communicating through symptoms where that imbalance is taking place. The great thing is, it was super empowering to really understand what was going on physiologically in my body with autoimmune, in her body with the anxiety and the seizures, and then to be able to have a plan to rebuild our health. Quite literally, it's like, okay, if you don't flip a switch, it happens, you know, over time. You come up with a plan to rebuild health and bring the body back into balance. And the beauty is I was able to wean off of my medication. She weaned off of all of her medications in under a year's time and literally transformed our relationship with our self-care, with understanding and respecting and honoring our body's signals, cues, and clues, and really being able to live a whole new direction of a life. I mean, she's now a sophomore in college and on a full ride at Notre Dame and doing really well. So it was super empowering. But I think that path, like, it was the hardest thing that we went through.
Oh my gosh, what a
Through
nightmare.
that tragedy or through that challenge came the empowerment, and now the gift I get to do to share and empower other women and help guide that journey.
Oh, this sounds absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad she's doing well and driving her car and having a complete full life. And that is, I know a lot of people who've gone through similar things, and it's just horrifying to hear. But here you have a really happy ending here. So how, you know, when I hear people say you're not the only one, it's like, and the supplements is overwhelming. I mean, I remember going through that one time, and I had so many supplements that I had to take in the course of a day that my body finally just rejected them all. Said we have to find another way. And so when you approach a woman who's probably just as overwhelmed as you were on, and I can't do this anymore. But I can't live like this anymore. I can't, meaning I can't do the supplements and the craziness anymore, but I also still am ill. Where do you start with them? What do you do?
Yeah, so part of it is doing, like I would say, start with the root cause. And actually, I want to gift to your listeners, anyone who's interested, my free hormone health assessment. That is starting point number one. And it's really taking a chance to listen to your body's cues and clues. Like I said, these hormones are the messenger molecules in the body. And the way that they speak to us is through symptoms. So, this hormone assessment gives you a chance to look at and document the different symptoms. Is it insomnia that you struggle with? Is it, weight gain around my midsection? Is it really low energy or like an energy crash in the afternoon? Is it where I have mood swings and things like, all of a sudden I can be very volatile, something can set me off, or really sad out of the blue? What is the pattern of symptoms and how does that map to some of the top 6 metabolic hormones, specifically, especially for women? That's my area of focus. But we're looking at insulin when we're talking about like blood sugar regulation, right? We're looking at thyroid that helps to really be regulating our body temperature control and our energy levels. We're also going to be looking at cortisol. That's one of the main stress hormones that people are familiar with, right? We're going to be looking at estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone, the sex hormones, because again, even after menopause, when those levels will change throughout perimenopause and then after menopause, they're definitely lower than when you're, in ovulating and in your younger years. There's still sometimes imbalances in those hormone levels based on other factors that are creating inflammation or that are creating some type of, like, for example, adipose fatty tissue all by itself can have an estrogenic effect where it creates excess estrogen in the body. And that's why some women are even at a risk of breast cancer after menopause because their progesterone levels are down, but their estrogen levels are relatively high. And their body is not able to properly detoxify because it doesn't have adequate nutrients to do those steps of the process. So the first step is let's get clear on what your body is trying to tell us based on your symptoms.
So this is to do this process, finding the root cause. Can you have your website is hinmanholistic.com. Can they find a way to connect with you and get this first step done?
Absolutely. So when you go to hinmanholistic.com, if you put your name and email and information at the very top, you're going to receive, it's actually my book is up there. So you're going to receive what I call all of our book resources page. And one of the top things is this hormone assessment. You'll get some other goodies too from me that you can check out, a hormone healthy meal planner guide, and some super simple, like some of my favorite items for healthy living in your house. You'll get those things too. But I always say start with the hormone assessment and your symptoms, because that can give you, Matt, to know what should I tune into? Where can I start to pay attention?
Perfect. Beautiful. Yeah, this is exciting work. It sounds like you simplify things for especially for women who are really going through a gauntlet. And I was trying to think of 1,000 questions to ask you. I have so many because we all have it. I have the Hashimoto's thing going on, and I just generally ignore it because I just don't know what to do with it. But what do you think is different about what you offer compared to what other? Well, we want to talk. There's the regular medicine that's going to the doctors, and then there's the holistic approach. And where do you fit with all of that?
I would actually say I am even slightly different than both of those. So Western medicine, conventional medicine in the United States and Canada and in most areas is great. It is absolutely a fantastic system to help acute care when there is a car accident or when there's something that needs urgent attention now. Where that current model of that system is not yet up to speed as effectively is preventative care, is optimizing health and really reversing dynamics of chronic disease. So when we think about things like Alzheimer's, when we think about things like cancer, when we think about things like diabetes, all of these different things are chronic diseases, even infertility, even struggling with the symptoms. We're talking about insomnia, anxiety. these can become chronic patterns of disease. And unfortunately, just the way the Western model is historically, it's very short intervals of time with the practitioner, the nurse practitioner, or the doctor. You're in with 15, 20-minute appointments. They're doing a quick analysis, a review of numbers on a lab work, and then giving a recommendation for a strategy or a procedure or a medication, just simply because that's the constraints of
their program.
People are serving in the limited capacity, right? Now, the functional medicine world, you can have functional doctors, naturopathic doctors, great options. Like I said, I started to work with one originally. They can look at it in a more holistic view and oftentimes will give more time and energy attention to your unique health history, what's different about your scenario, your lifestyle, your genetics, and can customize that a little bit further. I use that component. Where I take it a step beyond that is looking at the neuroscience, because ultimately, even if we hear the information, this was my situation, even if I know what foods would be more ideal for my body, given the symptoms, sometimes it's hard to actually make those changes, right? Even if I know what type of exercise pattern or what type of, even just winding down before bed, putting my phone down. And, admittedly, like I still take time where I'm usually like with my daughters watching a show or something. But if I'm given a recommendation that doesn't easily fit into my lifestyle, now all of a sudden that's the barrier, is the implementation of the consistent recommendation, doing it often, right? Or either I have a thought pattern that I learned about, like I just learned that when you get older, your body's gonna fall apart, right? That was just my societal like learning. It's in our environment. Maybe I learned that as a woman, I'm just saying some examples, but as a woman, like it's not really my place. I don't like to go to the workout facility and lift heavy weights and do things like that. I'm uncomfortable. I might hurt myself. And any sort of beliefs or thoughts that we have stored that we picked up along our life.
Right.
And now that is actually preventing a behavior or an action that would be beneficial, right? So the neuroscience aspect that we do in my coaching allows us to like kind of bring to the surface, where are your unique individual resistance points and blocks and perceptions or beliefs or, hesitations to look at other areas. And then how can we start to rewire the brain so it becomes easier to do those things, easier to recognize and change my expectation, believe it's possible to feel even better at 65 than I did at 55, to know that, holy cow, I can see that my bone health is getting stronger, not diminishing, right? That is a huge part of the process that is, I think, I bring to the table and working with, using the functional medicine like physiology, but also the neuroscience to help you implement it.
It sounds fascinating. That sounds terrific. I want to take a little tiny break and remind people where they can find you. Go to hinmanholistic.com to find most of the information, and you can find Amanda on Instagram, Hinman Amanda. You can find her on Facebook under Hinman Holistics, and I also found you under Amanda Hinman, and and then a YouTube. You have a nice YouTube station channel, I think, Hinman Holistic Health. I think if you just kind of would go onto YouTube and look for Hinman Holistic Health, you'd find her. And I love this free thyroid and hormone assessment. And can they find the free hormone assessment again on your website, hinmanholistic.com? Because you had sent me beautiful. Yeah, you sent me this long link, and I'm going, I bet you I could just go on our website and find it.
Hinman Holistic, if you type that in, you'll find it.
And I also want to ask you, how do you work with your clients? I feel like you do things online, and you don't. People can be non-local to you. I think you're in the Midwest right now.
Yes, exactly.
You work with people all over the country. Yeah.
I am local Midwest, but I do work with people all over the country and even in Canada as well. So the beautiful thing is there's the Zoom world has made it really accessible to help support. So I do work with women for a period of 5 months. So over the course of time, we can connect several times and really take you through I guess, a time-tested process where the first step is we look at the root cause in your unique situation, your unique body. Then we're going to look at which nutrients are going to be important to replenish, Nancy. And I'm happy to share my little kind of like simplified version of a one-hand meal plan starting point. This is a foundation that we teach, but then obviously we kind of refine it further once we have the details for women. Would that be helpful to teach the one-hand
Yes.
meal plan strategy? So when we think about putting together complete meals, have a variety of nutrients that our cells benefit from so that they can do their job, right? I think of the strategy PFFV. P stands for protein, and you want to think about a palm-sized serving of protein. So P is your protein at each meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, ideally. So the first F stands for fiber-rich foods, or carbohydrate is another. I mean, fiber-rich foods are carbohydrates, but I like to emphasize and focus the fiber component. So if you want to think about scooping, take your hand and just scoop. You want to have at least a full scoop of fiber-rich food at each meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The second F is for healthy fat, healthy omega-3 fatty acids. So like a thumb-sized serving of that healthy omega-3. This can be things like walnuts that you sprinkle on top of a salad. It can be a couple slices of avocado that you add over, a bowl of chili. It can be, some type of healthy salmon that's got some omega-3 fatty acids, but some type of healthy fatty acid. And then the V, PFFV, is for vegetable, a full fist at a minimum of vegetable serving at each meal. And so the opportunity is to start to think, even when you're out at a restaurant, okay, where am I thinking of my protein, my fiber rich being, whole grains, legumes, beans are a good source of fiber, seeds and nuts can add that fiber element. But we're going to have protein, fiber, healthy fat, and veggie in like those ratios. You don't have to count it out on a scale, but it kind of gives you, it teaches you a skill set to think about how to nourish your body consistently.
Is it my palm? Is it my scoop? Is it my finger?
Yeah, exactly.
That is good. Do you work with people with different? We've got a lot of different diet restrictions as you get older. There's the FODMAP group of foods. There's a gluten-free, for those with celiac and other things, and then you name it. So, I have people who are hemochromatosis diet. It's what I came across. You can't have foods in high iron. So are you able to work with all of those restrictions?
Great question, Nancy. And that is the reality of the world that we live in. In fact, I've studied more than 100 different dietary theories. So there absolutely are so many variations. And the beauty of it is this is really a process of understanding your body uniquely, because there is no one way of
eating. Unique. You're not rubber stamping anything. It's all very unique.
Yes. And it's really a journey of, like I said, self-discovery, so that you don't have to necessarily rely on some other doctor, specialist, nutritionist person to be the expert in your body, because candidly speaking, they're not living in your body each day. It's really empowering you with education and some, new strategies and tools to test out and to learn, so that you really can take ownership of, I can create health for myself. I know how to do this.
I love that. I love that. I love that you talk about it unique. It sounds like if I were to ask you, I'm going to ask you this. If I were to ask you, I'll ask you. There's no real one reason why somebody's hormones would go off or this is out of balance. It's unique to every single person that you're talking to. So you're not saying, and you're nodding your head yes. One thing that I find frustrating is when sometimes I'll listen to some holistic health food, they'll talk about, well, the environment and this things that you have no control over. This is why you're sick, or this is why this is happening, and you're like, I can't do anything, so therefore I can't get better. Can you address those things? I feel like you're optimistic. You're less pessimistic.
Yes, Nancy, and I think this is great because it is true. The world that we live in has changed dramatically in the last 50, especially the last 100 years. And part of the process of ownership in your health journey is recognizing those changes. I'll give a couple of statistics. And again, this is not to scare people, it's just to clarify what is normal and how it's really a call to action to step outside of common. It's to step outside of the norm. Because if you don't, these are the stats that lead to that reality. So a report out of the Mayo Proceedings Clinic found that 3% of US adults are healthy, happy, and on track to stay that way, which means 97% are not.
Oh dear.
Another statistic showed that 85% of women, by the time they reach age 65, have 2 or more chronic disease diagnoses. Again, I'm not saying this to be alarmist. It's just if we're doing what everyone is doing around us and we're not advocating, we're not getting curious about our cues and clues because of the environmental changes, because of the changes in the food supply, because of the changes in our, our world is a very fast-paced world, which puts a higher demand on the nervous system. So if we're just kind of falling into the world around us, those are the likely statistics that we will be faced with. So rather than feeling disempowered, rather than feeling discouraged by that, I invite you and your listeners and anyone here to see this as an opportunity. Like, okay, then that just reinforces I get to be proactive. I get to do something different. I get to take ownership of my health journey and learn and become engaged in the process. Because when you do, that's when you can find that inspiration. That's when you can open up that sense of, wow, inner self-worth and self-love, because you recognize that you've chosen that you are worth it.
Okay. So you're setting yourself up for, you're helping people, women, and you work with more than you work with just women, or you work with men and women?
Women primarily between the ages of 40 and 65.
Okay. And you're helping them to put their best foot forward, because their bodies do change. Once once you hit menopause, it just does tick differently. And and as you move forward, different things, what didn't work, what worked well does no longer works. Or you can't get away with that anymore, let's say.
Well, part of it is, you're right, you're absolutely right. When our hormone levels change, it's almost like that buffer that we had diminishes. So we get to be a little bit more tuned in. Otherwise, if we don't, it's going to be more uncomfortable. I'm thinking of a woman, Kathy, that I worked with, and she came to me after she had been through a breast cancer diagnosis in her 50s. So again, that's a challenging health, scare and situation to live through. And she recognized, she's like, you know what? It felt like that came out of the blue, and I was just hit with this, and then it was really overwhelming. And I don't want to be in that position. I want to be an advocate. I want to understand, and I want to really be proactive. And so we worked together the year she was turning 60, like before she had her birthday. And really she's like, I have learned so much and value and appreciate what my body is possible of and how it can, rebuild and recreate when I give it the tools that it needs. And when I set myself up for success, she ended up having her birthday. She's like, I am way more energized. I have more strength in my body. She's like, I've been working out with a trainer every Wednesday for over 2 years. And I felt like my arms were sagging. I was still like lethargic. Once we worked together and really saw that her testosterone levels were really low, get some support there, gave her some nutrients and some foods that are going to help to build that up, give her a self-care plan that's going to work for her lifestyle. She's like, I turned 60 feeling better than I have in the last 15 years.
Oh my gosh. That's just wonderful. So I'm really happy, excited to hear that. Do you work with people who are over 65, or is that a cutoff date? Or?
Yeah, definitely. Like, the reality is the approach that we take is about building health and preserving health and longevity. So it's possible. I would say that's not my most common clientele, but it's, if someone's really interested, for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of us who are living a little bit longer. So,
Yes.
but that's exciting. Were you is there a difference? You said things have changed at least 100 years, 50 years, but I think things have changed in the past 10 years.
Yes.
And what in 2025, what's outstanding to you versus maybe it wasn't so much outstanding in 2012 kind of thing, in terms of women's health? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say there's a couple of factors specifically of what's happening now in 2025, where we are in the world. And I'll give you three numbers that stand out. The studies show 2.9, 5, and 30,000. So 2.9 seconds, that is now the average attention span for adults.
I believe that. Yeah.
That's super fast.
Yeah.
So how does that translate to our health? Well, the more that the brain has to toggle back and forth between what you focus on, thinking about this and then thinking about this and then thinking about this, when I'm watching on TV, checking my email, seeing a text that came in. Oh no, wait, now then, did you see this news report over here? The more that we're switching and toggling, I call it toggling, back and forth, that is very draining from an energetic standpoint, mentally draining, and also emotionally draining. We start to run into overwhelm. We start to run into fear. We start to run into that sense of like not enough time, not enough energy, all of those things, right? So as the time attention span shrinks, the ease to fall into anxiety, overwhelm, uncertainty, mental like fatigue, emotional fatigue increases.
Right.
So that just means, again, that's going to affect our hormones. When we don't feel energized, when we don't feel relaxed, we're in a sympathetic nervous system state, which is the fight or flight state. That depletes our hormones. That increases inflammation. That increases blood sugar levels, which throws off or insulin and can lead to diabetes. So even if we're not even talking about food, people can become at risk for diabetes simply because of their lifestyle, simply because of the overwhelm of the nervous system, right? So that's one. The next number 5, that is the average number of pounds that women over age 40 gain per year now. That starts to become a hormone firestorm in the body when we're just putting on extra weight and pounds. And why does that happen? It's interesting because so many women actually are saying that they're eating less as they age, but they may be gaining weight, which seems counterintuitive,
Yeah,
right?
no, that's absolutely, I'm with you on that one.
So how am I eating less calories, but my body is holding on to more? That's exactly what's happening. Your body is holding on to it. And this is where we get to have a new learning and a new relationship with our body and say, like, the body is not a dumb bucket. It's not doing anything to sabotage you on purpose. It's actually trying to respond with its best intelligence to the environment that's being created to signal. So when our body is holding on to fat, holding on to energy reserves, it means your body, your nervous system thinks you are perpetually in danger. It means your nervous system thinks this world is not safe. And so I have to keep a stockpile of extra energy on reserve in case I need to fight or run or flee to save my life.
Yeah.
So even when our calorie consumption goes down, if our weight is increasing, that's a true sign that you're in fight or flight way more often than is optimal.
Which is fight or flight could be, it's not enough. There's not enough time in the day to do my list. So your mental and emotional is feeding into your balance, your weight.
Hormonal balance. Absolutely, it is. There's what I call this HPATG axis of interconnectedness. That starts with the top in the brain, the hypothalamus. That's an interpretation of our thoughts and our perceptions and our beliefs about the world. That's the hypothalamus. Then it signals to the pituitary gland, also in the brain, that kind of checks out the status of different hormones and messages inside the body, internal. And that signals down to the adrenals, the stress
Wow.
glands. They regulate stress response, fight or flight, or parasympathetic, rest, digest, heal, get stronger, right? If we're constant, but the top of the funnel is the hypothalamus, your thoughts and your beliefs. So if we're constantly thinking in
Yeah.
distraction and catch up in
Yeah.
fear and overwhelm,
Or negative thinking, whatever that
yeah,
may be, that's not good enough. Or why would you do that? Or you should said the wrong thing to her. Why did you even think you should say that to her? You
yeah,
are think of it as I just put 2 pounds on, or I just took time. I just
yeah. We haven't made we don't think about it like that, but that's literally what physiologically what's happening in the
yeah,
body. Mhm.
beautiful.
And then that last number that I went back to, the 2.9 seconds attention span, the 5 is the average number of pounds that women put on per year, and 30,000, that is, studies show that when you walk into a standard grocery store, that's the number of products that surround you that are highly processed, chemicalized, and food, what I call food-like substances.
Mm.
They're not actually very nutrient dense
Food like,
with
but
the
not
type of ingredients that our cells actually want to like
yeah,
run on. They have a
yeah,
lot of additives and a lot of other things that just
yeah.
interfere with cellular energy capacity.
Well, I
So
was told a while back, stay out of the middle of the grocery store and only shop around the edges because
sure,
that's where all the fresh food is, the real food is, the meats, the vegetables, kind of thing. And I actually think that's a great idea. I've been trying to actually what I'm trying to shift is maybe doing a little more grocery shopping online. So I'm picking the foods that I really need, not the foods that, well, that box looks really good.
yes, yes.
But I had a question. Oh, it just went right out of my head. Um, a lot of people are struggling with, oh, why did that, it's getting to be my age. But, well, we'll just come back to that in a minute when it pops back in my head. But in the struggle to pick the right foods, in terms of you've got organic foods, you've got regular foods, you've got the foods that you love, but they're not there anymore because they're out of season.
Mhm.
I had always heard about eating in season and stuff like that. But now we're looking at some crazy food changing, foods insecurities um,
Mhm.
due to so many environmental things. Um, can you work with that nutritionally to say, now that this thing that you were used to is not there, what can you do to replace it? Help
Yes,
encourage
yes,
people to not be overwhelmed when they go to the
exactly.
grocery store.
This is where we go back to the neuroscience component, because oftentimes it's actually, yes, there are definitely some circumstances that are food specific if it's a food allergy or different things like that, but oftentimes there we start to have a dysfunctional, and I'm saying me, I can't speak for anyone else. I used to have a very dysfunctional relationship with food because for so long I was indoctrinated to believe that I had to eat vegetables and certain things and cut out certain things in order to
Right.
maintain a certain aesthetic look. Then became diagnosed with an autoimmune condition and was undernourished. Quite candidly, I was not giving my body enough of what it needed, the protein and the healthy fat. And and then I had a different dynamic where it was like all these foods to eliminate and cut out and become scared of, right? So I had this really strained relationship with food for a while that it was when working with using brain science to really question what is it that I'm thinking? What is the hesitation here? What is the fear here? And literally get to the point of where I could identify, I'm scared to eat, you know, I'm scared to eat pasta because it will make me fat type of thing. Well, why do I believe that? And question that and then actually challenge those thoughts and beliefs and look for evidence of where that wasn't true. Because you
Yeah.
can always find the opposite as we just kind of take for granted that something has to be the way we learned it to be
Well, I'm
or
so, yeah, I'm so glad you're bringing that up because that was the question I wanted to ask you is the low carb diet. Ever since I was a teenager, I was always taught breads were bad. Don't have the carbs, don't have the cookies, of course, and the ice cream, of course, and then trying to have a relationship with that sweet stuff. Just never. It flips over when I'm stressed, like everybody else. But I tried to do the low carb diet. I really did. And I
Mhm.
found that because of certain food allergies, I couldn't replace it with some of the things people, were suggesting that I replace it with. What I'm trying to say is I missed it. I mean, literally, when I had the healthy carb, I felt better in my digestive system. Could you just
Yeah.
talk about low carb diets because that's what everybody's doing keto, but
Yeah, and I would actually share, Nancy, that my experience was similar to yours. When I was trying to eat too low carb, is actually detrimental to my health. So again, it's going to be different for different individuals. There's no generalization. However, I don't believe there's any foods that we should specifically demonize and say these are bad foods, these are good foods. It's really about finding balance. And when you have balance in your relationship with food, believe it or not, your body can tolerate a wider range of foods when your nervous system is regulated. When your
okay.
nervous system is regulated, going back to that fight or flight response, and you can easily get into parasympathetic to rest. And yes, we want to be able to turn on the sympathetic fight or flight and kind of focus and go and be, really turned on, if you will, in different areas. But when we are balanced, your capacity to enjoy a more robust palette of foods enhances, right? It's really when it gets really stringent and tight or really sensitive, hypervigilant. When think about if the immune system is responding and reacting to so many different foods that are not agreeing with you, that is likely a sign that we need to do some nervous system work
Yeah.
because the immune system is so overextended that it's almost like a caged animal. Like if you had a caged animal that was beaten and thrashed or whatever, anytime you go near it, even if you were just trying to pet it, it would be like, growling and showing
Oh,
its teeth.
we
It's kind
treat
of
our
weird, but that's what the immune system can
yeah,
become like, you
yeah,
know? It
yeah,
just doesn't trust you. So it's again, the approach is so many layers deeper than just what is the food, cut out the carb or add the carb. It's let's meet you where you are now and build
yeah.
towards resiliency, build towards a regulated nervous system, build towards strengthening your immune system. Then your body can have more options on the table. And again, everything in balance. Like I would never say, hey, you know what? You can get to a point where you're just eating cookies and ice cream and that's it. There's not enough nutrient density in those things. We need to give ourselves the vitamin A, the vitamin E, the B vitamins, the minerals. We need to give ourselves the gas in the car to make it go.
Right,
So
right. So it's funny is the spiritual principle is to work. You have the outer world's not working, so you work from the inside out. And here you're kind of, in a sense, you do need to work from the inside out. But the hypothalamus up here,
hypothalamus.
the top one is the mindset. I
Yeah.
love that you're saying that. And so the mindset will impact the hormone system, which will impact the digestion of food, which will impact so how you treat yourself, how you love yourself, how you see yourself. That's where it starts. I love that message. But also, I think eating the food that is nutritious to you, not the food that it's pretend food. Um, I mean, I'll tell you, on the real bad days, I wish I could have lemonade and brownies for the whole, why can't we live on that? Right? Because that's the fast sugar of the mind's going, but you can't do that. So, so
It's just a sign that's like sometimes it's like, hey, sometimes your body just needs a little. It basically to me when we're seeking those kind of like comfort sugar foods, usually it means that on something on outside of food, something in your other elements
yeah,
could use a little bit of loving, tender care and attention. So whether it be like treating yourself to reading a good book or going out with a friend or some type of other
yeah.
enjoyment and what I call vitamin joy in your life
Right.
is missing.
Yeah. Well, it's so true. It's so true. And it's holistic. It's all of it. It's the
Mhm.
mental, it's the spiritual, as well as the physical, which is, nurturing self. And sometimes when, um, habits start from when you're a little kid or and then you're a teenager and you want to be thin, thin, thin. And then a young mother, I'm just going to eat on the fly, and then it continues on. Eating's not so important, but I love that you've so many good messages you've delivered, here for self-care and, I want to reiterate that you could find Amanda Hinman at hinmanholistic.com, and you can search her name out, and then Hinman Holistic, search that out on all the different social medias. I do invite guests here who are available to all my listeners, and Amanda is very available to help you and support you, and to have a spiritually led life. We have to have a physically, we all struggle with physical, nobody's perfect, but to nurture yourself so that you could be the best that you could be is so very on top and important. And that's why I brought Amanda in here to talk. So please, if you feel that this is going to help you, call her and access her. And Amanda, is there anything you want to add before we wind down completely? Any kind of pep talk you want to add?
I think the last thing I would add, Nancy, as we're wrapping up here is, allow yourself the space to get curious of what would you do with 10 times the level of health that you have today. And I think, and I purposely say 10 times because it feels like that's a big stretch for a lot of us. We often don't even contemplate, well, what if my health was 10 times more energized and vibrant and strong, or whatever comes to mind? What would that mean for your life? What would that mean for your legacy? What would that mean for your loved ones? Because when you tap into the power of the reason why it's important that you take care of your health for yourself and others, that's when you're likely to really prioritize it.
Beautiful. Those are wonderful words of wisdom. And this is a gem of a podcast that I feel like people can come back to over and over again to get some more tips or some more ideas of how to approach maybe a difficult patch that you're having in your life. Check those hormones and call Amanda and let's get going. So thank you so much, Amanda, for coming on this podcast. And you'll probably be hearing from me.
Sounds good, Nancy. My pleasure.
So for now, everyone, take good care of yourself, love yourself, and stay safe. And life is worth living in a happy way. So go for it, guys.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.com. Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.